He's not a bat, he's a man who fights crime. And we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time. With John and Niall and a guest who doesn't rhyme. It's Bat Minute!
Hello everyone, and welcome once again to Bat Minutes and Robin. This is the podcast where we discuss whether each minute of Batman and Robin really is to die for. 1 minute at a time. I am one of the hosts, Niall McGowan.
I am your other host, John Parker, and I was going to say that I'm to die for, and you stole it.
It really is like the big line of the scene, though. It's just like, yep, well, someone had to get there first.
I should have come up with a backup, but you've spoiled my entire evening, and now I'm going to be miserable.
Oh, well, so, but luckily while you're sitting sulking, John, we have a plethora of guests here to perk you up as well.
It's almost like you knew, like we're going to have to get in extra guests.
Yes, we have, a returning guest up first, the chaplain of chat. It is Father David Mowry.
Hello, everyone. One of God's most absurd creatures here to join you for this minute of Batman and Robin.
And I apologize there's no Jim Carrey in this movie, because we know how much you love him.
Oh, well.
Yeah, that was,
you take what you can get, I suppose. Times being what they are.
I mean, you got Jesse Ventura. That's kind of like Ace Ventura. I mean, it's almost there.
Oh my God. Can we get a remake of Ace Ventura starring Jesse Ventura now?
We have Ace Ventura at home. The Ace Ventura at home.
Oh, and joining him is it's kind of a twofer because we got a returning guest and a brand new guest. What? We have the combo together. They host the Next Scene podcast, but it is Sean German and Brian German.
Oh, hello, gentlemen. Yes.
Hello.
Yeah. Hey.
Completely unrelated as well.
Oh, yes.
So, welcome back, Sean, and welcome for the first time, Brian.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. This is amazing.
Yeah, this film is to die for. I don't think anyone's ever said that before, ever.
No, that's fresh, that is. I've never heard any of us say it.
It's so fresh, it's PH fresh. It's glamorous 90s fresh.
Also, you know what? We were talking a little bit about this in the green room. We wanted to save it. I genuinely love this, and I got the impression maybe some of you do as well.
Yeah.
I mean, calling it a masterpiece is not even giving it justice.
Yes.
It's a great movie. That's the bottom line.
Exactly. It's fun.
Yes.
And what do we watch movies for? We want to enjoy
It's
them.
entertainment.
Well, usually.
This felt like Brian was just going to stop there. He says, I'm out. I've said my piece. And I'm done.
No,
Drop the mic.
But I will say, I think it was pretty good back in the day. But look, now with all the superhero movies that have come out, I think it's even better now. It's so distinctive. It looks great. I mean, come on, Marvel. Well,
I would disagree with you on that point, because I think it shows what Marvel is doing right these days versus the current DC films, and particularly the Nolan Batman films, where there's no sense of humor. It's so dark, and they're so serious, where they're not any fun. Whereas Marvel, particularly with Ant-Man and Guardians of the Galaxy and like the latest Thor films, where they're definitely winking at the camera and they're having fun with it, and they're like, hey, these are just comic book films, like we don't have to be so serious all the time. But I agree with Brian, like this has not only aged well, it's gotten better, that it has say, hey, listen, this is how you do a comic book movie. You don't go so serious, you have some fun with it, you wink at the camera, you go over the top, and it's I don't know if I'd say it's great, but it is very good, and it is a lot of fun.
I'm just waiting now for Father David to come in with the church's official stance on Batman.
It's terrible.
Well, we are still waiting for official word from the Vatican as to this movie. This movie is fine. It's definitely a movie. I am not as keen on it as some of my other co-guests.
Oh, don't worry. Most of the guests this season have not liked it, so you're fine.
This movie occupies an interesting place just in my own memory. I was ideally placed, in terms of age demographics for this movie, but I think because of the performance of Uma Thurman, I was not allowed to watch it by my parents, lest they have to have conversations with their young son that they were not quite ready for. And I think with the comment about the current superhero movies, certainly DC has gone hard the other direction from Batman and Robin to their detriment, I think. Aquaman was a good step back towards fun and light and, the right amount of camp, I think, for a superhero movie. Because we're talking about people walking around in spandex, for crying out loud. And I appreciated Marvel giving the reins to directors like James Gunn and Taika Waititi, because as great as the Russo brothers have been in creating a consistent cinematic language, they do not have the same appreciation for color and vibrancy that you saw in even the earlier Marvel movies. I'm thinking especially of Thor, which was just lush, and even Thor: The Dark World, for all of its other flaws, it had great cinematography and great use of color. Whereas, in something like, say, Captain America: Civil War, it's kind of gray and flat and not a lot pops, and it doesn't feel like this fun adventure that is taking place amongst larger than life personalities, which Batman and Robin certainly has in spades. So I think with Thor Ragnarok, you have a nice balance there where you're able to deal with the emotion and the appropriate level of gravitas to the story, while at the same time being able to have the right amount of humor and entertainment without it being just non-stop one-liners.
Yeah, that's why it's my favorite one. Well, probably my favorite one. I mean, that's hard to say because there's about 5 million of them now, but it's definitely in the top 3 or so for me. Definitely.
Well, this week in particular, though, was a real standout for me because it's just like it has at least one of my favorite lines in like the whole movie, and it's delivered so well. But it also has what may be the worst line in the entire franchise.
Oh my god, I hope we match up because I've written something very similar in an upcoming, not this minute, in a later minute.
Yeah, it's throughout the week, but today, specifically, we're here to talk about minute 70, which opens with some pheromones getting flinged and ends a minute later with a poisonous proposal. Or, well, the beginning of a poisonous proposal. She's literally about saying and so I was like, oh, it's almost there. But
for the purposes of the show, we can just say, yes, she's saying the word proposal.
Yeah. Do love knowing here that we have an expert in all things mime, Sean German. Love the mime. Well, I don't know if we call it mime acting, but the physical performance here of not just Uma Thurman when she's, blowing her pheromones in these guys' face, but their reactions, particularly the guy with the eye patch. Because he's doing like, anti-cold remedy acting of like, oh, my sinuses are so much clearer. Like he really looks like he has seen like the face of God almost.
Oh,
like,
that's some plop plop fizz fizz. Wow.
And then as they do that, her little kind of just tapping both of them, just like look how good I am. Like taken care of already within seconds.
But now here's one issue I've had though, and maybe you guys can explain this. So Poison Ivy's whole ideology is plants and growing things, but yet she wants to team up with Freeze, who just wants to. Plants don't live in a frozen tundra.
That's an excellent point. I don't think we've talked about that.
So they're two. I mean, what is she going to kill Freeze at the end of this?
I mean, they say the quote to the great Paula Abdul, Brian, opposites attract.
That's my favorite thing that's ever happened on the show.
I think it is. Basically, I think she's going to use him to freeze everything so she can get rid of everybody else. And then the ice is going to thaw, and then she'll regrow everything from...
Yeah, because spring always follows winter, so it's not as though ice is going to permanently rain. He can have the North and South Pole. She can live around the equator and have her greenhouse all the way, like a green belt around the Earth.
Yeah. Plus,
then
this
this is making sense.
Plus, once he's kind of, helped cure his wife and whatnot, he probably doesn't care at that point. Like, oh, yeah, okay, fine, you can do what you want to the world, Ivy. It's okay. I've got my wife back. That's all that matters.
Although at this point, Ivy doesn't know about the wife.
No, that's
a
great revelation.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's one of my favorite bits coming up.
But that's getting it. Before we go forward, I don't know, last week, did you talk about the actors that are playing these guards? I know we mentioned Jesse.
We did definitely do Jesse Ventura. We've not talked much about the other guy, though.
Oh,
Robert Moeller. Moeller?
Yeah.
I'm not too sure how you pronounce it.
I was thinking Moeller, but he's great. I mean, he's talking about, everything's connected. He's another... he's a former Mr. Universe, and of course Arnold Schwarzenegger, known for his, his career before acting as a bodybuilder. He also played Conan in a 90s short-run TV series. I think there was only 22 episodes.
I vaguely remember that, yeah.
Yeah, but I thought...
That's like a short-run American TV show, only 22 episodes.
Sorry, it's the longest running show in England, but it was only a single season here in the US.
If you get more than 6 episodes or something here, that's like a blessing.
I mean, Black Books, the entire run is 18 episodes, but so there
and
was
that's long.
There was a Conan television series in the 90s. So the same actor there, and I thought that was interesting because also starring in that series was Danny Woodburn, which you may know from a lot of things, from Seinfeld, from Watchmen, from Death to Smoochie. But he also played Tony the Elf in Jingle All the Way, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. So
one of the best Christmas movies for me.
It's
I
all
love
connected.
it. It's like a critique of capitalism at Christmas. It's great.
Exactly. Yeah.
but for kids.
It's just handy for us, too, because it's a natural Christmas special. We got Jingle All the Way right there.
Yeah.
Just hold off on it for another 10 years. Just cover every other single Christmas-related thing that ties into Batman, and then eventually get to it.
Eventually, you'll have to get to it. You mentioned the gloves, which I thought were great because she's painted the fingernails on the glove. Like the tips of her fingers are red to match her hair, which I thought was an odd choice, like to paint the gloves, but. It
reminds me of like a Venus flytrap where they've got the green leaves with a little bit of red at the end to attract the various bugs and flies.
That makes perfect sense, actually, yeah.
I like it.
I was going to say, Sean, was that not a Spinal Tap album, though? Paint the Glove?
Something like that, sure, along those lines, yeah.
We'll say, though, actually, I've noted talking about things we could potentially cover for Christmas specials down the line. I got very excited seeing Ralph Moeller's latest thing on IMDb is called A Christmas Cop. And in it, he plays the mayor of Chicago. And the plot summary is, it's Christmas Eve in big city Chicago, and vigilante cop Niels Scroogerson is in no mood to celebrate. And you can take that to the bank.
Scroogerson.
It also stars Fred Williamson from Dusk Till Dawn as the ghost of Cop Present.
What?
And someone else is the ghost of Cop Yet to Come. Oh, and it's like
it's RoboCop. It's just RoboCop. That's the ghost of Cop Yet to Come.
Oh, it is absolutely.
If that is out for this Christmas, there's no way we're not going to have to cover it now.
This sounds like something for you two, for the Germans to cover. Surely.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh. Yeah, that's next year's the next scene special.
There you go. Our next Christmas special will be A Christmas Cop.
Cop by cop, I guess.
Oh, that's perfect. That's my new favorite thing.
Yeah. Although talking about Christmas and the slightly religious things here, because we do have you on, Father David. I wanted to get your opinion on some of the elements that are actually at play with Poison Ivy here, because she comes in with this new hairdo, very devil horns kind of thing going on. She has got a whole thing about, like, she created paradise, like a Garden of Eden, and she's got a whole snake motif going on and whatnot. And then, of course, we have her poisonous kiss, like the kiss of death. And people, you can trace that back if you wanted to be like, well, a kiss is a death mark. Would go all the way back to Judas in the New Testament and stuff.
Yeah, there's certainly no lack of cultural symbolism tied up with feminine sexuality and temptation and sin, and she herself calls out a lot of that stuff. In this movie, I was just watching it again in anticipation of this. It was interesting, that role of women that comes out in. Of course, in Batman stories in general, but in this one in particular, because you have Poison Ivy, who represents the alluring, the tempting, the dangerous aspects of female sexuality, and you have the figure of Victor Fries, who feels incomplete without his wife. However, everything he does, however absurd, goes back at root to his love for his wife. And there, of course, remains the constant romantic misadventures of Bruce Wayne in this movie, though it's not as evident as it was, say, in Batman Returns. Yeah. And I don't quite know what the movie's trying to say with all of it, because Poison Ivy's end is so kind of just an event. It just happens. Like, well, she gets knocked into the plant and it closes, and that's just kind of it. And furthermore, it's a conflict that they give to Batgirl for this, because I guess they can't have the big strong men fighting the sexy lady. I don't know. So there's never a moment where the tempting nature of Poison Ivy is overcome through any other kind of different relationship with feminine sexuality. It's just like, oh, well, she's a girl, let's have her fight the other girl. And
it feels like that's why they put Batgirl in the movie. It's like, well, Ivy needs to fight someone.
Does, yeah.
It's like they had that even in Batman Returns, when they had Batman flat out punch Catwoman, they had to comment on her, go like, "How could you? I'm a woman." So they're like, we can't do that again. We're gonna have to.
Yeah.
See, I kind of went a different direction. I thought, well, this is a literal kiss from a rose, since she's now a plant.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
Even allusions then back to the previous movie, because she does say, like, I really am to die for. And of course, we know from talking to Batman Forever that Joel Schumacher originally wanted to have Poison Ivy in that movie, with Nicole Kidman playing the part. And as we went through knowing that, it's like, I think a lot of elements from Chase Meridian are actually just Poison Ivy things that have been retooled into this new character.
Yeah.
And now having her literally name drop a Nicole Kidman movie that came out the same year as Batman Forever, even though, it's a well-known phrase and whatnot, it just feels really like, yeah, man, it's still hanging there in the air.
That's a great line, though. I really am to die for. The double meaning and everything. And I also love her just insulting men, calling them absurd creatures. She's not wrong. Men are ridiculous.
Most absurd thing I saw, well, it was not to insult anyone's personal style, but like, you look at about like 17 seconds onwards, when Jesse Ventura turns around, I assumed, we commented on his hair in his previous minutes, because he has this thing where, like, you really need to shave your head, dude. It's like the receded long mane isn't a good look. But if you actually see under his cap, he's got the hair braided up and into this little, it's almost like a plug in the back of his head. And it's just like, I'd only noticed it a couple of minutes ago, and now it's all I can look at.
Yeah, but if you're a big famous wrestler, you can get away with whatever you want. Nobody's going to question your look. I mean, Hulk Hogan's had the same look forever, and it's absurd.
I honestly didn't notice Jesse's hair because I was just too distracted by the eye patch on the other guy.
Yeah, I didn't notice it at all, really.
I find it weird that eye patches are still a thing. Because someone at my work, she had a problem with her contact lens, and it ended up basically it blinded her.
Oh no!
So for a while she had to wear an eye patch, and I just thought that was weird to me. Like, surely these days we've come up with something better. No, it's an eye patch. So she went out of her way to get a cool one that was all like blinging, and it had like fake diamonds on it and stuff.
I wish I could have done. When I was a kid, I had to wear, because I've got a lazy eye. I had to wear. I was told I was going to have to wear an eye patch for like a couple hours a day for a while, and I got really excited because I thought it was going to be like a cool pirate eye patch. Cool, yeah. And it was just like a flesh toned plaster.
Oh no!
That I had to put over my eye, and I was like, "This is terrible." Gosh. And I just hated wearing it. It was really uncomfortable, and so my eyesight's still jacked today, basically. So I think it was because of every time my parents left the room, I was like, yoink, and just taking it straight back on.
They
again.
need to think about this. Children, I mean, it shouldn't matter, but to kids, it does matter. You want to look cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, see, if that eye patch had come with like a parrot and a hook, you would have worn it all the time.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays, kids would probably get loaned, like, we call Mad Eye Moody from Harry Potter. You get that. I would have worn that all the time. It was like a googly eye looking eye patch that's like going around the room and stuff.
All you need to do these days is make a character in Fortnite who has an eye patch, and kids will accept it then. It's like, oh yeah, cool, it's like that character.
I think there's a bit in Seinfeld where Kramer just decides to start wearing an eye patch because he's just like, oh, my look is stagnating. I just need to find a new thing. So he just starts wearing an eye patch. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll get that at some point someday because now I could just buy my own eye patch. I don't have to get the old plasters from the doctors.
David Bowie did it.
Yeah.
Hey.
And it
you
worked.
You need to add eye patches to your TeePublic store.
Oh, there we go. Perfect.
Hey.
Yeah. All the cool guys wear it. Bowie, TV's Conan. The
What more do you
Garlic
need?
number 2.
That person from my work.
Yeah. I did actually find out, too, that I was quite surprised. Apparently, Jesse Ventura's guard has a name. He's, if you look him up on the Wikipedia, like, the other guy is just called, like, Eye Patch Guard. But apparently, someone has managed to get, like, a crisp enough copy of this movie to zoom in to the little name tag. Apparently he's called Greavy, which I don't know if that means anything to anybody.
Greavy.
Is it like an allusion to grievous bodily harm because he's like a thug?
Maybe.
Or
I can't think of anything Batman specific it is off the top of my head. Correct
doesn't
me if
ring-
I'm wrong, listeners.
yeah. You think they'd call one of them like Bolton? That'd be like Lyle Bolton, who was Lockup in the animated series, who was a guard in Arkham who went crazy. No, they didn't go down that route. I would have called him, actually, if talking about Ace Ventura, would have called him Ace. Because then it's like, oh, it's Ace Ventura. And then you can be like, we're giving a little nod to Jim Carrey because he was in the last movie too. Although, they already have a nod to Jim Carrey from the last movie in this particular minute as well. But, yeah, tragically not to be. But one thing I did really notice too is when, so she goes in for the kill. And two things I really appreciated was that, did you guys pick up on when she actually like locks lips? There's a sizzle sound effect.
Yeah.
That venom is potent.
Yeah. I don't remember hearing that in previous pecks.
Well, there's only been one or two, and there's usually been like quite a loud score at the time, isn't there?
Yeah. I was wondering if she's getting more powerful. So it's just because we know her abilities are growing. So like, yeah, maybe it could be like, get to a point she just breathes on someone and like their face melts or something.
You might be onto something, because after she does it, her reaction I found quite interesting. It's kind of like she's a little bit surprised by how powerful it is and how quick they die. She's like, oh, look at that.
Yeah. Because little weedy Jason Woodrue, he hung on for like a couple of, like at least like 20 seconds or something. But these guys are just down straight away.
Yeah, and she looks amazed. I mean, she is a scientist, so she probably thinks, oh, good results. Yes, the experiment was a success.
Yeah. I also really like because the first one's kind of like an alluring, seductive kiss. And the other one, again, was kind of like a snake. It's like a snake biting into its prey. It's just a real quick turn, and then the neck goes straight out, and she's just into the guy straight away. And like, I don't know if that's a deliberate thing by Uma Thurman, but like, it seemed to me as if she was like, yeah, this is more of a going in for like a predator with the prey scenario here.
Once you've bitten the first animal, the second bite is not going to be quite as much of a surprise. So you need to do that one quickly. Because I love one of the things I love about these guards, that as she's coming in with her speech about God's most absurd creatures, I love the guards. Yeah, whatever. They're totally enamored. Like, whatever you say, pretty lady. That's great.
Everything with these guards is absurd, to be honest. I mean, we brought it up last week, but new guests. I've got to say it again. Why are they in the room? Guards should be outside of the room.
Well, yeah,
and that's going to play into later in the week, in fact.
Well, later this minute, where there's when we switch over to the property locker, and the guard is inside. Like is he part of the criminal property? Because there's a guard inside the locker. Like, yeah,
he's been confiscated as well. He has to sit there.
He knows what he did.
It's a big overcrowding problem in Arkham since Batman came along. Now they're catching all the criminals. It's like, oh damn it, we don't have anywhere to put them.
Oh no, I was going to say, but I do think that it kind of going with the whole, men following Pretty Lady. That's how I see it. They're just like, oh, here's somebody I want to be with, and I'll just into the jail cell. Okay, wherever you go, I'll go.
Because men are that ridiculous. There you go. That absurd.
Yeah.
But bringing up the criminal property locker, we do cut to that, and instantly, right? I love it. It's great. All these Easter eggs, wonderful. But why are these outfits, the Riddler, Two-Face, we see these old things from the previous movie, why are they just sitting out, like, as if they're ready to go? As if someone's just going to come and take them any second now.
Oh, I've got like about 1 billion problems with this Easter egg. This makes zero sense.
No, they're all like hung up and stuff, as if these guys are, in about 6 months, maybe they're going to get out, so we need to keep their clothes very nice for them.
You can imagine coming like one green bowler hat with question mark, and there you go. That's one two-toned leopard or zebra-skinned pink suit.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure because their mental health problems are centered around these new identities they've taken on, you probably shouldn't just be giving them back and letting them slip into their old ways.
Yeah. But even the most annoying part of it to me is that we, particularly you and me, John, we saw what happened to Two-Face and the Riddler.
Yep.
Riddler ended up in Arkham. He wasn't when they captured him, he wasn't in that outfit. He was in his gold, or he was in his silver sparkly onesie. Yeah,
but they probably raided his base, didn't they?
Right.
But like, why would they go in? That seems even more wasteful. If you go and raid a criminal's house, and that means now you have to store all of their stuff. That doesn't make any sense to me. It's like we have to put his sofa and stuff in there too. It's like, oh yeah, everything he owns now belongs to us.
The police do auction these things off, especially in America. That seems to be more common.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, what this seems to be to me is the criminal property locker for the inmates, like at a penitentiary, where you pick up like Jake Blues, and he gets out of the penitentiary. He's given back everything that he was arrested in. But this is an asylum. This isn't a penitentiary. We're not going to re-release these guys with the Riddler suit or with the Two-Face suit when they get out, because that's probably just going to trigger another psychotic break for them.
Yeah.
And particularly on top of the Riddler's jacket is 2 of the bombs he used to blow up. So it's like, yep, there's your little explosive bat duck things.
That's a good point. The first time I watched this, I didn't notice until we were talking about it sort of throughout the week. And there's explosives in this room.
It's like a bundle of dynamite just sitting there.
Like full-blown Acme TNT right there.
But now
it's almost as if Arkham is not a great place at it and not good at its job.
Yeah.
No, it's absolutely not. Every single thing we learn about Arkham in these movies, it just gets worse and worse. I work in a mental health hospital. This is not how they operate.
I would hope not.
I love to pop into John at work, and he's just sitting in this criminal storage.
This is what I do. Yeah.
He's reading the Daily Mail, surrounded by bombs and.
Oh no!
But now I have to say though that now looking back at this movie, this is fan service done right to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Even forgetting about the storyline logic. These days, it would be so in your face. Jim Carrey would probably have a cameo to redo this today. Mm-hmm. This simple, quick shot, you pick it up and you move on.
Yeah. No, totally. These days, I think somebody would come in the room, like when Bane comes in, actually. He'd probably come in and start looking through it, pick up the Riddler bomb and look at it and be like, and throw it away.
Literally happens in Thor Ragnarok when Hela's going through and she's just like, nope, terrible, sees the Infinity Gauntlet, even though Thanos already has it. And you're like, what's that doing there? And then she sees the Tesseract and she's like, oh, that's not bad. And it's like, I get it. I see. I saw the other movies too, Marvel. Don't worry about it. But
now, what I think of is the moment when Finn looks at the remote on the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
Oh,
for no reason. Like, what's this? Forget it. That's
that
just for the sake of the audience. Hey, remember this thing that you liked? Okay, now we're going to chuck it and move on.
that actively angered me, some of that stuff. And I like that film. I like that movie, but that stuff really annoyed me. Even worse when they then turn on the chess set and it's exactly the same as we last saw it, implying that nobody ever in the intervening years has played chess on that film.
That could be the thing, though. Han Solo just bought that chess set to look like he was smart, to impress somebody. And he's like, well, I'm never going to play with that again.
A bit like I've got a guitar in the house, even though I can't play it. Yeah.
He just turns it on when he has guests over. They're like, yep, look, there's my, next to my, fancy brandy that I've got.
Yeah. And I suppose, look, let's be honest. We've all got books on our bookshelf that we buy because we're supposed to. I've got loads I've never read.
Here's the big thing, though, for me, is that, does anyone remember what happened to Two-Face at the end of Batman Forever?
Yeah.
He died.
He died. He's super dead.
Yeah, he is. Unless this is telling us that, like, oh no, there was an in-between Quill. And the Riddler broke out, he got his old outfit, and then they put him back in. And he somehow revived Two-Face. Maybe Two-Face didn't die. But it's like, and that suit is perfect. Like, he fell from a huge height onto, like, jagged, a watery grave. The jagged rocks below, as Jim Carrey kept saying. It's like, yeah, that suit would not be... They wouldn't go and rob the suit of a dead guy.
You just burn it or something.
Yeah.
Or donate
Unless
it.
this guard is, like, a weird... Like, this is his weird trophy room or something. Like...
Maybe.
I just like collecting criminal stuff. It has nothing to do with the actual criminal property.
Well, are there any that I'm missing? Because obviously there's the Riddler, there's Two-Face. We can see Mr. Freeze's suit there. But what's this doll on the left?
Well, the thing is, I've mulled over the doll myself. I do have one thing I think it's definitely referencing, but I'm actually going to leave it till the next minute because it ties into another note.
Ooh,
but
okay. And the dynamite then? What's the dynamite? Is it the one that... Bruce puts dynamite down someone's trousers in Return, but presumably that's exploded. So
they went and, like, not only did they fix up Two-Face's suit, they went and got that dynamite and pieced it back together.
Because it's got a tag on it, so it's been itemized. It's from something, allegedly.
Yeah, I don't know. It could be like I know in the animated series there was the Mad Bomber who was like in the Grey Ghost episode, but I don't know. It's a bit too like generic as it's just dynamite. It could belong to anybody, really. Like,
but why wouldn't you make it Batman specific if you're going to go to these lengths of showing the Riddler and Two-Face's stuff?
Mm-hmm. Well, there's one coming up in because on the other side, then you have a pair of boxing gloves. And I was like, I don't know. I think of DC and boxing. I think Wildcat, who was a superhero, he was a boxer. I don't know why they put that in. It really feels like, what do we got lying around? Like, what can we throw in this scene?
At first, I thought the doll was Scarface in a reference to the ventriloquist, but upon closer inspection, this is more like a Raggedy Ann doll than a ventriloquist dummy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it looks like that haunted doll.
It does. Is that the Mad Hatter because of Alice somehow? I don't know.
I think it's one shot you get actually when Bane comes in through the wall.
Oh yeah, let's bring that up. Bane smashes through the wall, which is amazing, but looks so fake.
And the criminal property locker doesn't have glass on the windows. He doesn't even have to smash anything.
It is on the ground floor. There's no glass. And that mortar is older than the United States of America.
It's the first building constructed in the US, I think.
When you get a good look in just before we move on, be the in the shot where we see Bane kind of reaching through the bars and pulling the guard through the wall, there's a saxophone.
Yeah.
On the left. Like, what's the story? I want to know what's the story behind that villain.
Because I didn't recognize the stuff you see here. I don't get. There's saxophone. There's some kind of satchel on the right. There's a clock.
Mm-hmm. There's the clock.
Yeah. The clock I took to be. I was personally like, okay, is it the Clock King?
That's what I thought.
Yeah, Clock King. If people aren't like the. I think he popped up in the animated series, but he was a Silver Age silly villain. Although that was weird because I looked into it, I got to do my favorite thing of looking into obscure Batman villains to see like where did they actually come from. And like the Clock King, he used to be a Green Arrow bad guy, and he had a ridiculous outfit where his face was literally a clock, and he had like a lime green cape and like a blue outfit with clocks all over it, and it was like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever seen. And so you go in thinking like, oh, so what's this guy's goofy backstory? And it's actually like a really tragic tale. We're like, are you sure you want this for the backstory to the Clock King? Where he was William Talkman, and he
Of course he was.
Of course.
He was diagnosed with a terminal illness by going to his, for his local checkup, and he actually had to take care of his ailing sister. And then so he's like, well, if I die, then there's going to be nothing for her. He tries to rob a bank, and he's so precise with his conception of time. He knows exactly when to there'll be no one. A bit like in Groundhog Day.
Yeah, this is Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And so when he goes in, but he accidentally trips the silent alarm, and Green Arrow shows up and arrests him. While he's incarcerated, his sister dies. And so then he just goes crazy and becomes like he's obsessed with revenge and stuff. And it's like, that's a really sad story. Like, it seems like he was actually a good guy who was driven to this, to a life of like really ridiculous crime where everything's about clocks, but through like actual proper tragedy and stuff. It's so I was a bit sort of disappointed by that.
Yeah.
But at least though in the 60s series, they brought him in. He was Morris Tetch, who I think then they made it that he was the brother of the Mad Hatter, who was also in the TV show, because he's Jervis Tetch. Mm-hmm. And he was just like this goofy guy with like, you give people clocks that had poison gas in them, and giant death traps made of that were like just big hourglasses and stuff like that. And my favorite thing was that his henchwoman was called Millisecond. I was just like, as soon as I read that, I was just like,
that's genuinely good.
I felt like what I imagine like a drug addict feels as soon as they get a hit. I was just like, oh my god, that's the greatest thing ever. Millisecond.
Yeah. But this sounds like another commentary on the American capitalist system. Whereas if we had a proper socialized medicine, his sister would have been taken care of. He wouldn't have had to rob that bank.
That's true.
He's just another a predecessor to Walter White in Breaking Bad.
Mm. Oh yeah, maybe that was Vince Gilligan's whole thing. It's like, I hope you didn't realize I was just totally swiping the original clock.
He wanted to do a millisecond show, but he wasn't given the rights. So.
But yeah, people might remember though, and I actually encourage everyone to go rewatch the Clock King episode of Batman the Animated Series, because I think one of the last times I saw it was when I was a lot younger, and I was like, it's not one of the big villains, and it was just like a guy in a suit, and I just didn't. Back then, I didn't care, and it's the guy who does the voice of him is Alan Ratchins, who everyone will know as Dharma's dad in Dharma and Greg. And you'll definitely know him, John. He was the director of the show that Elizabeth Berkley goes to audition for in Showgirls.
Oh,
Goddess! He was the guy with the terrible wig.
The listeners know my love of Showgirls. It's a masterpiece of terrible filmmaking.
But the thing is, so I was like, oh, I'll go watch the episode again anyway, and it's actually really great. It's like a properly massively undersung episode where he's like he's this. I think nowadays
it's proving the point of Joker's philosophy in The Dark Knight, that we're all just one bad day away from being like the Joker, and that's what happens to the Clock King in that episode. Mm-hmm. Just this compounding series of events that are outside of his control, and he decides to take the cuckoo bananas route.
His whole thing is that he's I think they call him Temple Fugate. That's his name in it, which is like, that's a very comic booky name for a show that was known for like kind of toning things down a little bit. But there's this whole thing. It's like he's like an efficiency expert for a law firm, and the guy who would be mayor ends up like just friendly, completely innocuously just recommends like, just loosen up a little bit and like take your break a little later, just live a bit more spontaneously. And because the guy's, it's almost nowadays you seem like, oh, he's on the spectrum. He's so fastidious about like exact timing and where everything needs to be in a certain place and all this kind of business that it actually ends up spiraling him out of control. And a bunch of stuff happens. He ends up losing everything, comes back 7 years later for revenge. But they kind of paint him as that he's so precise and he's so aware of when and how everything happens. He's studied Batman down to the millisecond, so he knows exactly how long it takes Batman to throw a punch and everything like this. He's a really formidable opponent. And it's like, oh, that's actually like a really good villain. Like, it's so now I'm kind of like, I'm pro Clock King now. I'm like, oh yeah, bring him back. But I'm choosing to believe that giant clock in the corner is an allusion to the clock.
It's got to be. But going back to the original question, what's the saxophone?
Tim Capello from the Lost Boys, the half-naked saxophone player.
It's like the 10th time he's come up on this season.
And I'll mention him again, John. So,
He's great. Why not?
this is Capello cast now.
But after Bane does destroy the place and this guy, we then do sort of cut back and see that the guards are dead. Poisoned.
Yeah.
And Freeze says, impressive. And all I could think of was, I wish he'd followed that up with Darth Vader's most impressive.
They've even got all the steam, rather the condensation coming down around him, just like when the pipe is cut in the Cloud City chamber with all the carbonite gas spraying everywhere.
That's clearly, it's an homage, you know. They don't mention it in the commentary track, but we're on to you. We're on to you, Joel Schumacher, even though you're dead.
I kind of also internally believed as well that his music cuts out now. And we did have Ivy's sultry saxophone music playing again when she entered. Maybe the guard was playing this. Maybe that's his saxophone. And he was sitting with the intercom, just like jazz, riffing to himself, and then he put it down for a second to read the paper. And now, tragically, no one will hear that beautiful horn of his again. Like, it's just gone now.
It's lost to time.
I'm assuming he's dead. Like, you don't really. He looked like he was getting on a bit, and I don't think he get hauled backwards through a brick wall and live.
Well, plus I don't think Bane's the kind of person to just knock someone out. I think he's probably going to break him in half.
Yeah. I really do love the makeup effects to show you that those guys are like they are dead. But I thought it was weirdly kind of gruesome for this movie because this one is the one that kind of dials a lot of stuff back. And to actually overtly be showing you that, like, oh no, those guys are completely dead. Like, we already know that she can kill people with this kiss. We saw it happen. But to just give them, I would have thought that would have been a Warner Brothers, like, nah, man, you gotta cut out the close-ups of the two corpses there. That's a bit much.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is just the setup stage of the rule of three, because we had the first kiss earlier in the movie to set up the idea that, oh, Poison Ivy kills people by kissing them. Then we have the reminder here, like, wow, she really kills them when she kisses them, to heighten the tension in that scene with Robin later in the movie. Like, oh, we saw what happened to Jesse Ventura. Oh, no, Robin, don't do it. Ah.
Yeah, like if Jesse Ventura can be taken down by a kiss, anyone can.
No man is safe.
That puny Chris O'Donnell has no chance at all.
Exactly.
I mean, I guess the one bit they cut out was George Clooney when he's trying to convince Robin. He's like, they killed Jesse Ventura. Man. There's no way you can take her.
Especially because, again, he's meant to be a teenager. He can't stand up to that. It's too much.
One other little thing, I don't know if you noted this down, John, but to add to my fervor about, like, why is Two-Face's outfit in this, in that, storage room? And the script specifies that the Joker's outfit's in there.
Yeah, I quite like that, though. Go all the way if you're going to do it.
I don't know, because I suppose now it's just like, well, there's no continuity to these things. It's like Friday the 13th now, where it's like, how's he back? Who cares?
Yeah, but we're supposed to believe it's the same universe, even though it's clearly not.
Yeah,
but there should be some penguins in there too.
Yeah, just walking around.
One little penguin with a little rocket on his back, walking around.
Oh, it's like the guard's pet. He's just like sitting. It's like, yeah, we diffuse the rocket. He just likes it on his back.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be cute.
Little pengy.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and then Bane feels really guilt-ridden that he's killed the guy, so he adopts the penguin. That's his pet. He's walking the penguin around the rest of the movie. It can only improve things, quite frankly.
Well, the draft version of the script actually has a whole extra bit with her seduction of the guards as well, where she says, here we go, she says to them, "You're not that attractive. Pretty average, I'd say, but your fantasies aren't average, are they?" It's like, what? And then she kisses them.
Oh, hello.
That's a little bit too much. I can see why they cut that from the type of movie we get in the finished product. It's like, that doesn't fit. That's a little bit too much.
I don't know, kind of added to... We had musings earlier in the movie where we're saying, like, wouldn't it be something if the pheromones are making people see something that's not really there?
That'd be
so,
good,
like, Poison Ivy's actually like an undead-looking kind of mangled zombie woman, but when she blows the pheromones, people see Uma Thurman.
That'd be great.
And it could be like, when she says that, it'll be like, oh, your fantasies aren't average. It's like, whatever he's seeing her as isn't average. So he's like, oh, you see me as this amazing thing. But within the movie, it is like, no, she just looks like Uma Thurman.
You could have made her look like, Woodrew's character, the Floronic Man, but a Floronic woman, but they see her as Poison Ivy that we know. That would have been quite cool.
Yeah. And you just have the big reveal scene later on when, like, the spell breaks on him and he's just like, ah! And then you get to make another toy where she's like a big monster woman and stuff.
Although, haven't we had that exact plot? That's a Star Trek plot, isn't it? That is, where they see what they want to see in a creature. And then, because then the English comedy Red Dwarf do like a parody of it.
I mean, if it's good, keep doing it, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, so then we do get the beginnings of Poison Ivy coming to Mr. Freeze with a proposal of sorts. And I don't know, does anyone have anything else they want to get off their chests about minute 70?
I think the only other thing I have is quick on Ivy's line about her. She refers to Freeze as her most unabominable snowman. And that reminded me of the line that Frankenfooter has of his unconventional conventionalists, which I think just emphasizes the campiness of this film. It's that I think the people that were disappointed just were coming in with the wrong mindset. If you just recognize that this is supposed to be campy and fun.
Yeah. Actually, you just reminded me, Sean, too. I had a similar note for this minute in that, because we've been noting throughout the seemingly many Rocky Horror references that are in there. Mm-hmm. And at one point she says, we give you life and we can take it away just as easily. And Frankenfurter does have the line of like, I made you and I can break you just as easily, which reminded me. So I was like, oh, maybe that's a little nod. But then there we go, there's two of them in the freaking within the 1 minute now.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah,
masterpiece.
There's a lot of stuff too later on. Like, I mean, she does refer to, Mr. Freeze refers to Bane as meatloaf and everything down the line.
Oh, yeah, that's 2 minutes from now. But yeah, that's coming up.
Oh, we'll bring it up. Save it.
Save it.
Yep, save it. we will head off into the dark night. And normally I get everybody to do their plugs, but you know what? We have 3 guests, so I'm going to give each of you a day to do your plugs. So we'll go first with Father David. You can do promote anything you would like or tell people where to find you online.
You can find me online on Twitter at Father Mowry. That's FRMOWRY. You can also go to the website I've put together, FatherDavidMowry.com, and I've thrown links in there for all of my various appearances on Movies by Minutes shows. But if you want to hear me in the driver's seat of a Movies by Minute podcast, you can listen to the couple weeks I did of the best minutes, where the Movies by Minutes community looked at the 1946 film The Best Years of Our Lives 1 minute at a time, and I was thrilled to be the host for 2 weeks of that.
Now that I hadn't heard of that movie until the project was announced, and then as soon as that project was announced, again, someone at my work just kept going on at me about the movie, like, have you seen this movie? It's great. What weird timing that a show comes out just when you're promoting this movie. It's almost like he knew, but he didn't.
It's kismet.
Jim O'Kane is everywhere.
That's what he does. Like, Jim O'Kane sends guest microphones and he pays your coworkers to talk about movies he's covering.
He was trying to get me to host it. It was I would have gladly done so if I'd have known prior.
You showing us a picture of this guy's blatantly just Jim O'Kane in disguise. He's got a different mustache plastered over his actual mustache.
And a terrible wig slapped on, like a very jet black kind of thing.
His name's Kim O'Jane.
Check that out, everybody. And as usual, come and speak to us on Facebook at the Bat-Minute Listeners Cave, Twitter at Bat-Minute, Instagram, the Bat-Minute. And what else should we do today now? What should we plug today? Patreon. Go to our Patreon, the Sleepy Charlie Media Patreon, and for just a couple of dollars you can get, you can help us keep the lights on, literally, and also you get bonus things, you get bonus material. Who knows what we'll have had out by the time you hear this, but as of recording, we've just released our episode about Superman Lives. So you can listen to that. You can check that out. And we'll be
We had a
back.
bundle of stuff for this past, literally in the past couple of weeks, where we had Terminator 2 commentary, Superman Lives, 89 comic reviews are coming.
Another 89 comic coming out soon. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and all the Dark Victory stuff. So, there's a bundle of stuff on the Patreon
So
now.
go do that.
Yeah.
And
Well, definitely, and just I want to remind the listeners that every dollar you donate through the Patreon to support the show goes to getting Coolio, getting a Coolio cameo.
Yeah.
So, if you haven't already, patreon.com/Batminute.
we originally...
Sleepy Charlie Media.
We originally said it as a joke, right? But, I mean, if we make enough money to get that Coolio cameo, we are going to get that Coolio cameo.
Some of we were on Dark Knight Rises by the time we got the money for it. He's like, I was in one of these movies, right? It's like, yeah, but we didn't have the Patreon wasn't going full steam then.
We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. Anyway, join us again on Wednesday because we'll be back with more exciting Bat Minute action. See you then.
Next time, Super Arkham Sweep. A scarlet-haired harlot suggests that two become one, and a frosty confined felon wants in on the fun. Another terrifyingly Teutonic delinquent has joined the Toxis Temptress's team, but which of Ivy's little elves is racing a shopping cart to the scene? We're off our trolley on Wednesday, loyal listeners. Same Bat Pod, different Bat Minute.
We'll be back.